Well, folks, under President Donald J. Trump, America just witnessed something shocking. Police in Los Angeles refused to keep protecting Kamala Harris, pulling their officers off of her detail after President Trump cut off her Secret Service extension. Now, I want you to think about that just for a second, okay? This is the same Kamala Harris who spent years building her image as untouchable, guarded by taxpayer dollars, suddenly left exposed. Now, thousands of people are already chiming in, dropping comments saying that she deserved it. We shouldn't be paying out of our taxpayer dollars. We shouldn't be paying for Kamala Harris's security detail. If you agree, drop a 1 in the comments down below that America should not be paying for Kamala Harris's security detail. But here's a twist that nobody saw coming. Once the police walked away, so did the cover. In fact, the backlash ripped open this vault of corruption and the history that she's been trying to bury for decades. Oh, the past is dirty. From crime lab scandals to leaked abuse files, from wrongful convictions to shady campaign money. Oh, guys, this isn't just about one security detail. It is about a record that's so freaking rotten that even law enforcement said enough. So if you think that Kamala Harris's security detail should be removed, type in removed right now. Now, today, we're not just talking about protection being stripped away from Kamala Harris. Oh, no, guys, we are talking about the mask being ripped off her face, the forgotten history flooding back into the spotlight, and of course, the uncomfortable truth that Kamala Harris's career wasn't built on justice. It was actually built on cover-ups, privilege, and corruption. So stick with me, guys, because by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why this police action didn't just expose her security weakness. Oh, no, it actually exposed her entire corrupted past. So hit the like button, subscribe, guys. We got some dirt to dig into. September 1st, 2025. What's that? About a week ago, President Donald J. Trump officially revoked Kamala Harris's extended Secret Service protection. Now, by law, former vice presidents, they only get 6 months of taxpayer-funded protection. But Joe Biden managed to slip in a quiet extension, probably using his auto pen, so who knows who really signed it, 18 months instead of 6 months, so that Kamala Harris could live like royalty on your dime. While folks are having trouble just purchasing basic necessities, Kamala Harris, even though she's a multimillionaire, can't be bothered paying for her own personal security detail. She would rather use taxpayer-funded security detail. That is stealing from taxpayers, folks. So Kamala Harris, she wanted to live like royalty on your dime, even after losing her billion-dollar campaign in 2024. Well, Trump saw that and he said, no, we're not doing this anymore. So here's where it gets explosive. Once her Secret Service bubble popped, the Los Angeles Police Department, they were pressured to step in and cover her with city resources. Officers pulled from their beats, pulled away from tackling crime in one of America's most dangerous cities, just to guard a millionaire who could easily afford her own security service. Now, and then of course, the backlash hit. This is when the real backlash hit. In fact, The Guardian covered how President Trump's move was framed as political retaliation. Now, if you think that was political retaliation, y'all can let me know. But even the LAPD, they couldn't stomach it, guys. Their own union lashed out saying, look, officers were being misused. They were being pulled off the streets. Meanwhile, crime victims were left waiting. The New York Post reported the outrage, and Axios, they confirmed that Mayor Karen Bass, everybody's favorite Los Angeles mayor Karen Bass, had to backpedal, admitting that LAPD was only meant to provide temporary support. Now, think about the symbolism here, guys. Police literally walking away while Kamala Harris refusing to waste their time, refusing to waste their time protecting someone who built her career by trading on privilege and power. And when those particular officers walked away, the cracks in her carefully curated image, they started to split wide open. For the first time in years, Kamala Harris, she stood exposed. And that is the spark, folks. This is the moment that the shield dropped and her most corrupt, forgotten history started rushing back into view. So let me ask you this. If the first thing that the police exposed was misuse of taxpayer money, what else from her past is waiting to be uncovered. I want to hear what you guys think. Now, here's a very dangerous game. Waiting until your plan changes, waiting until you lose your doctor, waiting until you get hit with a surprise bill. But most people are not waiting anymore. In fact, they're calling Chapter right now before something happens. Now, one of our viewers said, hey, I wish I hadn't waited so long. Chapter fixed my Medicare insurance plan and they gave me peace of mind. So let me ask you, are you going to keep playing the waiting game? Are you going to keep rolling the dice until you get burned? Or are you going to do what most people already are doing, taking action? Now, most people, they're calling the phone number down below on your screen right there, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. The phone number is 909-563-8279. Now, once the LAPD walked away, the questions didn't stop with taxpayer money. No, this pretty much just opened up the door for something way more dangerous. Kamala Harris's record as district attorney and later attorney general. And what you're going to find there, folks, this is a trail of cover-ups and refusals that put lives, justice, and the Constitution at risk. So I want to go ahead and start with San Francisco's crime lab scandal. A technician was caught tampering with drug evidence, even using it herself. More than 1,000 drug cases had to be thrown out. 1,000 drug cases had to be thrown out, guys. Think about that. The Atlantic reported how Kamala Harris's office ignored internal memos warning of problems, then violated defendants' rights by keeping that information hidden. Okay? Now, think about that. 1,000 cases dismissed because Kamala Harris's office looked the other way and she denied knowing anything about it up until it blew up publicly. That's not leadership, guys. That is negligence. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there's a special warm place in the afterlife for her, if you know what I mean. But it gets even worse. On death row sat Kevin Cooper, convicted of a brutal 1983 crime. Okay? Mounting evidence suggested he might be innocent. Okay? Think about this, guys. Mounting evidence suggested he might be innocent. And then new DNA testing could have actually answered that question. Yet, Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, refused to allow it. The case haunted her during the 2020 primaries, when even the New York Times ran Nicholas Kristof's expose. And Wikipedia's own entry on Cooper lays out how Kamala Harris only reversed course once national outrage put her on the spotlight. So basically, she would have let this man be executed, be killed, because she didn't care about him. It was only when the public caught wind of it and the public outrage was just so overwhelming and it was affecting her campaign, that was when she decided to back off. Unbelievable. Now ask yourself, why would a prosecutor block DNA testing that might clear a man who could possibly be innocent who's currently on death row? Why wait until cameras are rolling to suddenly say, I feel awful? Well, you didn't feel awful leading up to this point, did you? I mean, this wasn't about justice. It was about ambition. Keep the files closed. Keep the scandal hidden. Climb the ladder. Who cares if you execute an innocent man on the way up? That's the kind of woman she is. That's the pattern. Okay? Now, this is exactly why today's police action matters so much, because when the LAPD said, look, we're done covering you, it didn't just expose her security weakness. It forced Americans to remember what else she's covered up. From drug labs to death row, the story is the same. Kamala Harris puts power before people, politics before truth. And here's a question. If she could bury scandals in the courtroom, what did she do when it came to protecting the most vulnerable victims in society? Now, if you thought that the crime lab scandal was bad, wait until you hear this one, guys, because the next piece of Kamala Harris's forgotten history, it's darker, more gut-wrenching, and more telling about what kind of a person she really is and what kind of a person who she really chose to protect. Now, during her years as San Francisco district attorney, Harris had the power to release files exposing priests accused of sexually abusing children. Now, her predecessor, Terrence Hallinan, he'd already started digging, already pushing to make those records public. But when Harris took over, she shut it all down. She sealed the files, locked the doors, and then walked away. Now, here's where it really kind of like turns my stomach. At the very same time, Kamala Harris's campaign coffers filled with donations from, guess who? Catholic affiliated lawyers, law firms, even board members connected to the archdiocese. Investigative journalist Peter Schweizer, right along with multiple victims' attorneys, documented the flow of cash. As they say, follow the money, right? Rampant magazine even reported how her office buried the records that could have exposed decades of abuse. Guys, this is not even like accidental. This is clearly egregious at this point. And the victims, they were silenced. Families who deserved justice, betrayed. Instead of protecting children, Kamala Harris protected these institutions tied to power, money, and influence in California politics. Now, here's the real kicker. You thought that was bad. Years later, on the national stage, Harris bragged that she stood up for women and for children against predators. Can you believe that after what she had just done? Now, imagine being one of those victims, knowing she buried the very files that could have exposed their abusers. That's not justice. That's complicity. That's complacency. That is complicity. Complacency. What is the word? I think I'm having a brain fart right now. But basically, this is literally knowing who was guilty, and because they're filling your back pocket, you're willing to just kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and ignore that because you're paying me, because you're funding my campaign. Oh my God. I swear there is a very warm place in the afterlife for her, if you know what I'm saying. Now, this really pretty much tells us something critical here. When push comes to shove, Kamala Harris, she doesn't just stand with the powerless. She shields the powerful. They don't even need shielding, but she'll do it as long as the price is right. Anything for money, anything for power, Kamala Harris will do it. So when the LAPD walked away last week, that betrayal was back on full display. The people who were supposed to be protected, they weren't protected. No, the officers who were supposed to serve the public, they were pulled off the street, and the pattern hasn't changed. This is the same playbook. Now, if sealing child abuse files wasn't bad enough for you, what happened next? This is going to make your blood boil. Because in San Francisco, under Kamala Harris's watch, an innocent man was railroaded by a system that cared more about convictions than the truth. His name was Jamal Trulove. So in 2007, a man was gunned down in a public housing project. The police built their case on the flimsiest of foundations, a very shaky eyewitness who first identified somebody else, then changed their story under pressure. There was no forensic evidence. There was no DNA. There was no solid proof. But Harris's DA office pushed it forward anyway. So here's the part that still haunts this case today. When the jury came back with a guilty verdict, Jamal Trulove says that he turned to look at Kamala Harris, and what did she do? She laughed. She laughed. Now imagine that moment right there. You're about to lose decades of your life due to a wrongful conviction, and the top prosecutor in the city mocks you with a smile. Years later, on appeal, the entire case collapsed. A jury found that police fabricated evidence, tampered with witnesses, and violated Trulove's rights. He was fully acquitted in 2015. The city of San Francisco ended up being forced to pay him $13 million for the injustice that he endured. Now, first of all, there is no amount of money that could restore the lost years of his life that he has missed, okay? But no officer faced any real punishment, and Kamala Harris, she ended up walking away untarnished on her path to higher office. You see what kind of person she is? I mean, almost like a child of Satan, if you ask me. Think about that, okay? Think about what this tells us. A man lost nearly a decade of his life because of a prosecutorial misconduct. And then I'm pretty sure all of his friends and family members thought that he was just the worst of the worst because they're thinking that whatever he was accused of was true, even though it wasn't. So he lost decades of his life. He probably lost friends and family. I'm sure he lost his job. I mean, the amount of trauma that she put this man through just so that she can climb another rung on the ladder is just unreal. The system that she oversaw was corrupt enough to frame, convict, and nearly bury an innocent man. And then she claims to be looking out for people of color. Don't even get me started on that. So instead of accountability, she laughed. This is who Kamala Harris really is behind these polished speeches. And so today, when the LAPD refuses to waste their manpower guarding her mansion, it feels like justice finally circling back, because for once, law enforcement said no to her. But folks, this trail of corruption doesn't even stop here. Now, if you thought the wrongful convictions were shocking, wait until you see how Kamala Harris's ambition even touched her own words, her own work, her own so-called achievement. Okay, so we've already seen the cover-ups, we've seen the corruption, but what if I told you that even Kamala Harris's words weren't her own? Even her supposed accomplishments, lifted, stolen from others, repackaged and sold as her own personal brand of justice. It's unbelievable. Yes, guys, I am talking about plagiarism. Not one mistake, not one oversight. This is a pattern. The New York Post exposed how Kamala Harris was caught lifting passages almost word for word in multiple settings from her 2009 book, from official reports, even from testimony meant to show her integrity as a public servant. This is unreal. She's been exposed. The article didn't even hold back. While a prosecutor, Kamala Harris regularly moonlighted as a thief. Wow. Now, this is the same person who bragged about her record in speeches, who lectured America about accountability and ethics, and yet couldn't even craft original words. That's not leadership, guys. That is a fraud. That is a political hustle. So when you put it all together, the security detail that got stripped away, the crime lab scandals, the buried, priest abuse files, the wrongful convictions, and now plagiarism, you start to see the picture very, very clearly. Kamala Harris didn't rise because she was competent. She rose because she played the game. She cut corners, and she hoped that nobody was watching. But here's the thing. Now people are watching. The police stepping away, that was more than a security decision. That was symbolic. It was America finally saying, we see through you. And this next part that I want to share with you guys, I want to go ahead and bring it full circle, because the LAPD's decision wasn't just about saving manpower. This was a moment that exposed Kamala Harris's entire forgotten history. And so now, we come pretty much full circle, because the story didn't end when LAPD officers walked away from guarding Kamala Harris's house, her mansion. No, this was only the spark that lit up everything that she tried to bury for decades. Think about it, guys. Police officers in one of America's most crime-ridden cities said flat out, we will not waste resources protecting a millionaire politician who can afford her own security. That wasn't just about safety. That was about principle. And once they took that stand, the forgotten history, it came rushing back. Now, we remembered the scandals, the crime lab cover-ups that tainted over 1,000 cases, the refusal to allow DNA testing that could have freed a man from death row, the sealed clergy abuse files that protected institutions instead of victims, the wrongful conviction of Jamal Trulove, laughed at by the woman who held his future in her hands, the plagiarism, the fraud, the ambition at any cost. This is why the LAPD's decision mattered. It ripped the mask off. It reminded the public that Kamala Harris's career wasn't built on justice. It was built on concealment, privilege, and corruption. So the final blow was under President Donald J. Trump saying, America's watching. No longer are these stories buried in dusty files. No longer does Kamala Harris get the shield of taxpayer-funded protection. What the police exposed wasn't just a gap in security. It was the truth of who she really is. So when you hear that Kamala Harris was busted, don't think about one day of security. Think about decades of corruption now impossible to ignore, because the history that she wanted to be forgotten, it's now the history that she's never going to be able to escape. So folks, if you made it this far in the video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video. Let everyone know the truth about Kamala Harris, and stick around, because YouTube thinks you're going to love the next video that just popped up on your screen right there. Click that, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.